about in the afternoon some time ago, and desire. So how much of our parent, how they bring us up, controls our desire. For example, Arul did mention that a lot of things his father bought. He said, it's not ours, second hand and all. So Arul, quick question to you is, when you grew up, did you have the craving of, hey, I need to buy everything new, I'm not going to buy anything, second hand, or because I do buy a lot of stuff. Okay.
Actually, yeah, that's a good question. But when I grew up, right, initially I was when I came to know that, oh, my father lied to me, I was a little bit angry, disappointed, all these things. But after 2 or 3 years, no, not I will not say after marriage and all. Just when I was in my college, I understood that okay, what he did was right. Even if I become a parent, I should also be like that. This is what I realized. I didn't have any because I can see my father, because when we go out, we buy many things. My father just buy, I mean, have what is it, the torn innerwear and all these things. He just have this one, so he makes me feel, oh, it's not necessary. I don't. He's exactly uses word. This is not defined by what dress I wear. So yeah, he always emphasizes one, because when he goes out
Arun, I cannot talk for your father because he's not here. But if somebody tells me I'm not defined by the shirt or a pant I wear, I understand where they're coming from. Then why can't I'm not saying wear 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 3,000, 2,000, nothing. I'm not defining any amount. But my question is, to prove that, should I wear a toned cloth? I'm not talking about your father at all, because what intention and what background, what if it is there any influence, he's the best person to talk, so we are not talking about it at all. My question is, are we understanding him rightly or subtly getting influenced in a different way? So that is my inquiry. What your father is wearing, what he is telling is quite obvious. But why he is telling that, why he is wearing that could be very different. So now if I'm going to say the dress I wear doesn't define me, what is wrong, right? There's nothing wrong in that sense. I can wear a non-toned shirt, right? A shirt which has no holes, or whether it is an inner garment or inner wear or my briefs or my trunks or whatever it might be, right? So why can't I wear something which is, for me, not for the, I'm very sure, the inner garments, it is not for the external world to look to it. But even for me, for myself, why can't I have it presentable?
Okay, you say that why can't I have it presentable, right? So I think that is because his brought up or his nature. I don't know that. But what I realized is one thing that is very, very deep in my heart. I mean, because if you talk about your parents' childhood, some things you will never forget. So some of the moral values you never forget. So
all that is okay. My question is, I'm not talking for your father. Please don't talk for your father.
Okay.
We should not. That is not the right thing. I hope we agree there. But yes. My question is, are we in that sense we are getting in a different kind of influence inside our head?
No, because I think okay, if it is me, right, I can't talk my father. If it is me, if the inner wear is torn and if it is not giving me any problem, I'm totally fine with that. Just because it is torn, I not necessary to throw it away. Honestly speaking, this T-shirt is already torn over here, somewhere here. But still, it is fine because this T-shirt I'm using for more than 3 years. So I like it. It's very soft, so I wear it. My wife said that, why are you wearing this one? Why can't you just throw it? She told me many times. But I feel it's very comfortable. I'm not going out, sitting in my home. So this T-shirt, I like the red color very much. So I said I just wear it. So I don't say that just because somebody else, some other influence. No, I'm happy with it. I wear it.
I will give a slightly related example. There is a reason why I asked the question also. For example, I have a very big aversion towards taking an auto. Because as kids, we never went in auto because we could not afford autos. In those days, autos were also very less. And you commute by taxi. I'm talking about 80s, 90s. Okay. So that's unconsciously there in me, within my mind. So even when we are able to afford auto, right? The thought is that, hey, I have a two-wheeler, I'll only go in a two-wheeler. Or later when you upgrade to car, even now, I'm more than happy to just walk down the street, take a share auto and go to say 1.5 to 2 kilometers down the line, go to the shopping mall and again take another share auto and come. Okay. It's not that I can't afford an auto, but it's somewhere it influences. That's what I was trying to, get to. It does for me. I just gave an example of that. Somewhere it is there in my mind.
So coming to today's, what is love?
சாந்த பிரியா உங்களோட ஷர்ட் ஓட்டெல்லாம் நோட்ஸ் எடுத்திருக்காங்க.
No, Shanta Priya didn't notice it. I noticed that he didn't take the pen at that time. So it's fine. Oh, now she said. You already said. Okay. Just said. She didn't notice that. Okay.
Just reading their last week's notes and like making connection.
See,
what you guys are talking about.
Too much, ma'am. Right. Nothing.
So what is love? Yes, Shantapriya, go ahead.
No, in your as per your thing, this is that doesn't make any sense. So I've been even after attending so many sessions, I have been the most disobedient student in the forum. It's okay.
Okay, what is love? What comes on top of my head is caring for others and should be unconditional. These are the two things.
My first girlfriend, what comes to my mind?
எனக்கு அது வரவே இல்லை. சரி, ஓகே. ஓகே. ஓ,
அப்பலாம் சொன்னா அவர் வந்து it is the bonding with everything. You can love everything. You can love this, that and that.
Are you aware this session is recorded?
ஓ,
இல்ல வேலை. ஆமா, அந்த சின்ன மறந்து
ஒரு நடுவுல ஒரு பீட் போட்டுருங்க.
I don't publish the sessions immediately. It takes 2-3 weeks. But this link today we are publishing it, sending the link to Ranjana.
அது பரவாயில்ல.
நீ சொல்லுங்க, அவர் சொல்லிடுவாரு. நீதான் அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட்னு சொல்லிடுவாங்க. முடிஞ்சு போச்சு, அவ்வளவுதான்.
My God, how sad is that? It's a known fact, universal fact. What big deal in declaring it? That's all.
She knows.
She knows about the first love, but when we talk about love, she's the first person to come as the question. That is the mischief there.
அதோட முடிஞ்சு போச்சு கதை.
இப்போ இதுதான்
டேஞ்சர் பாயிண்ட். இப்போ ரெக்கார்டிங் போஸ்ட் பண்ணா I don't know.
இதுக்கு முன்னாடி அனுப்பலாம். Selfishness. Love arises out of selfishness. Nothing beyond that.
Love
arises out of selfishness. Unconditional எல்லாம் ஒண்ணும் கிடையாது. Basically you are selfish. That's how love starts.
இல்ல, அந்த லவ் வந்து எனக்கும் வந்து அன்கண்டிஷனல், சாரி, செல்ஃபிஷ் தான். அது இல்ல, நான் சொல்றது வந்து இப்போ நான் மெச்சூர் ஆகி வர லவ். அதாவது
before going into love, we have to see one thing. When we are talking, see, we talked about desire, demand, and then sorrow. Then we are coming into self-pity. All those things we are talking about what is love. In between, there's a huge activity which all of us as adults continue to indulge, some point of indulge or will indulge. And that again, the spiritual people have made a very big problem out of it. The whole gambit of sexual activities, the physical activities. Why have we made sex such a big problem? Why sex finds such great importance in our lives, right? So if you have to go into this question, there are lots of varied things which we have seen whole. Whatever we have seen, right from the surface level of the consciousness to the memory part, right? The becoming part, the search of experiences becoming, the residual of it is memory. So it goes with this also. So desire, so the need to fulfill, to desire, then becoming, then the demand is arising out of sorrow, the desire is arising out of sorrow. And sorrow finds its pleasure in self-pity. Self-pity finds its pleasure in justification, in blaming, right? It justifies through blaming and complaining. Right? All these things we are seeing. Now, if you take every activity of ours, if you take any activity of ours, right? Like reading a book, painting, music, driving, traveling, right? Finding a relationship, friendship, going out, all these things, if you take each and every one of those activities, you see that these activities are one way or the other an escapism from the self. Every activity, whether it's a professional, personal, familial, right, a hobby, anything you consider, it is an escapism from our own selves. That is, it's an escapism from our own consciousness, right? Without an activity, being with our consciousness is loneliness, and unable to be with that is loneliness, and then pursuing an activity to forget it becomes our life. So that is where the gods come in, the rituals come in, the relationships come in. That is where our status, all these things, pursuing, becoming, everything comes in, and that is the deep sorrow we are living with. Now, if you take all these activities, there is some shade of that original background, ugly self constantly being touched. So that is why we are constantly looking at some activity. But if you understand why the spiritualists, the religious people say, desist from sex, completely come out of sex, lead a celibate life, all these things, is because the simple thing is, if you observe yourself completely during a sexual activity, or later, or even now, if you have gone through some sexual activity in your life, and if you pull yourself away from it and start observing it, start looking at that particular or varied sexual activities, right, you understand sex is one activity where during the act, there's complete forgetfulness of the self. I don't know whether you observed it. There's complete forgetfulness of the self, right, in a sexual activity. Therefore, if you understand, we have made sex a very the intense cornerstone of our lives. So it is one of the most vital, intensive pleasures which we pursue, because those are the moments that we completely forget ourselves. See, for example, years back, I know a person whom I met years back. I'm sorry, it is not about any particular community or caste here. I'm just naming certain things. He's coming from a very known, reputed, forward community. So he is a person who's like, even if he dies on the road, he will not drink water from outside. Right? Even either it should be his own bottle, or he will not drink water. He will never touch anything from outside, nothing. And suppose one of us touch him, he will go and have a bath. If he goes out and comes back home without bath, he will not come. Like that is, I understand. I hope you have seen these kind of people, right? So one day he, frantically calls me, and he talks about this touchability, not touchability. He talks about this particular word in Tamil called theta, untouchability, right? Theta, that, but somehow this person, for some reason, he used to come to my house, share a meal, all those things are different. Though I don't belong to the same community, somehow there was some sort of connection between us. Though I have nothing to do, I am not justifying, approving, nothing. I'm just stating something that has happened. One day, in the mid of the night, he calls me around 12:31. Very frantically, he says, I want to meet you. Then he said, at that point he's now a very elderly gentleman. At that point of time, probably he was around 58 or 60 or something like that. This happened, 15, 16 years back. So he's in his mid 70s, a little older, maybe here and there. So he calls me when he was around 60, mid of the night, 12:31. I said, no problem, I'll come and meet you, because being an elderly, no, I will come there. You don't come home. I'll come to your home. Is it okay to come at this time? It's okay, absolutely fine. Your wife will be there. No, it's okay, absolutely come. We can have some private discussions, or we can sit in the car and have. Oh, that's a good idea. I'll come. So another half an hour, 40 minutes, he comes to my home and he gives me a call. I come down from the apartment. Then and he was looking very distressed, and his eyes were swollen and so on and so forth. Then I asked what happened. Tomorrow morning you should come home and help me out. I said, okay, without even understanding what the problem is. I said, okay, because he was in such distress. Then he said something which, today evening my wife attempted on her life. She tried committing suicide, but somehow we saved her. She's in the hospital. So tomorrow you should come and talk to her. That is, oh, I didn't know. Yes. Many people know about it. So I asked what happened. She went to the temple nearby, and she came back. Then I was having a physical relationship with my servant, my maid servant, and she saw it and all this, and the rest of it, all of you know. So I asked him, though that may not be the right time to ask, but still I went ahead and asked him, sir, you talk about untouchability, you talk about theater, you talk about all these things. Do you mean to say, I'm not saying anything, I'm not judging you. You mean to say, first I like to understand whether that maid servant is also your own community, or your own caste. No, she's much lower. Then how did it happen? No, this has been going for a very long time, actually. This has been going for a very long time, and that is my weakness. Okay, fine. Anyway, I'll come and talk to your wife tomorrow. All that is okay. Now, what it reveals is, see, whatever we may talk or something, the sexual act becomes an intensive point. It is the most, according to me, the most potent desire, demand, the most vitalist. If I can use the word vitalist, there's no such word in English dictionary. I think so, but vitalist, the most. I'm just stressing the supremacy of that word, right? Superlative of that word. It is one of the most vital energies that drives us. That is why, that is an activity. If you understand, we forget ourselves completely, and that is why pornography, all these things take enormous energy from our life, enormous attention, enormous time from our life, because it is like, we can lose our inhibitions completely in the privacy and then connect with it. So it is completely that is, throwing away yourself. You forget yourself. And because every other activity in our life, every other activity is to fight loneliness. Loneliness is to be with your own self. It's being with your own consciousness without an activity, right? Then you fear it. That the fear is called loneliness. That fear of being with your own consciousness without any activities. Then you try to get into so many other activities, including prayers, gods, rituals, visiting temples, visiting friends, companionship, all these things. And all these things are literally to fight loneliness, fighting your own self, trying to forget your own self. In that sense, that lust, that sex, the act of sex, that lust has become a very vital problem in our lives, trying to forget ourselves. I'm not sure whether you are understanding what I'm saying, but it is not rocket science. It is fairly visible. It is fairly obvious. It is fairly simple and straightforward to me, right? So we have made sex a problem, and from there, the spiritualists, the religious people, that is why, the Roman Catholics, in that sense, are many of the sannyasis are here within the Hindu fold, right? They desist from marrying because, that becomes a sinful act in that sense. So when we talk about love, right? When we are talking about love, what is love, right? I quite wonder, right? If at all we can talk about love in terms of lust, physical activity, sex, and attraction. So if you understand why, especially when people have, have made sex as such an integral part of their life, I see, if you really understand, I'm not sure if you have really followed it, observed it, right? When I say observe, in that sense, I mean everything you observe, right? From your morning waking up to sleep, and within that gambit, if you have a physical relationship with somebody, then with your partner or anybody it is, that is your choice, right? That's your life. But if you observe, then the activity of sex becomes an intensively, extremely self-forgetful act. In that sense, I want to forget myself completely, and that act becomes extremely important. Therefore, we have given intense importance, central theme in our lives for the activity of sex. So this is something, when we talk about consciousness, this is one activity that is so important for a lot of people, for most of us, right? That, it becomes an act of self-forgetfulness. So that is why, that lust, that passion, that intensity, that keen attraction, that intense attraction, the activity of sex holds across ages, across millenniums, across generations, right? So from here, one activity which I see in the whole gambit of consciousness, the whole gambit of activity which we want to escape from consciousness, is the activity of sex, right? So we are not, when we talk about love, right, we are not talking anything to do with a man to woman aspect at all. So we are trying to understand it can also include a man to woman relationship, but not exclusively, or it just includes only the man to woman relationship. So we start from here. So how do we understand what is love?
I would still say it's a selfish act of what do you put, strong desire towards something, to own it.
In simple terms, I would say something that gives me happiness.
Then
How would you define happiness?
This is all recorded. So, okay, happiness in the sense that can be multi-level. For example, eating an ice cream. Okay, that also gives me, I'm happy that after eating the ice cream, I'm happy. So I call that as I love ice cream. What else? If I see my parents, yes, I'm happy. I feel happy. If I don't see them, if I'm far away, I'm coming home from India, I feel very bad. Some tears, some cry. Yes, no, don't feel opposite of love. It's not hate, but we miss that. There's a void. So that's why and for example, you see a small baby on the road. It's very cute. That makes you feel happy. So that also we love, we can't go and say that, but that's a love. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying the very deep essence. I love my family, parents. I'm just saying that in day-to-day activities, sometimes you see some even some bodybuilder joke you see that and makes you laugh within yourself and feel not just superficially. You feel comfortable and light on that, and that gives you some kind of satisfaction. I also call that, I love that joke. So that's why I'm saying that last week also I told the word love. Yeah.
What we know about love, what we think what love is what Muthu is saying. Right? That is what today we call it as love. I cannot disagree on that. I cannot agree more on that. It is exactly, what Muthu says, an act of selfishness, right? It is an act of something which intensively I am interested in, which I desire in. That is what today we call it as love. That is what we think is love all about. But first I have to understand. I'm not saying it is not love yet, right? I do not know. I would start there. I would say I do not know. But we have already seen when we have been talking about relationships that act of selfishness is what starts attachment. What starts attachment, right? Then that attachment leads to dependency. That dependency leads to possessiveness. That possessiveness, ownership, leads to control. That control leads to manipulation. That manipulation leads to suffocation. That suffocation leads to end of a relationship. So this is an entire cycle of act of selfishness, actually. Right? So whether it is selfishness, I would expand that word a little bit. I would expand that word a little bit. Though I have started with the act of selfishness, as I'm talking, something came to me. Probably that word I feel to be more appropriate here. A self-centered activity. A self-centered activity, right? So these are all self-centered activities that it starts with attachment, right? I by myself, feel. So it starts the self. By myself, I feel incomplete. I'm unfulfilled. I don't have enough of myself, right? I'm not able to take as I am what I am. Therefore, I feel through my relationships, I can get fulfilled, complete. Therefore, I start getting attached to a relationship, dependency, right? That dependency leads to ownership. Ownership leads to possessiveness, possession, right? Ownership and possession. Then what I own, possess, I like to control. Through the exercise of control only, I exhibit my ownership. I exhibit my possessiveness. So I start controlling. Then to control it, I start manipulating it. And once I start manipulating it, the other person will not cooperate so easily. In most of the cases, there's a lot of conflict. And more the conflict is, the more the cycles of attachment, dependency, right? Ownership, possession, control, this cycle intensifies, and then leads to suffocation and even severance or breakage or collapse or, irreversible breakage or, complete disconnect in a relationship happens, right? So if my self-centered activity, my selfishness activity leads to pain, leads to sorrow, leads to suffering, can I call it love? It's fairly obvious we cannot call it love, right? It is not love. It is fear. It is intense fear. It is intense insecurity. It is intense, losing oneself, trying to fulfill oneself. These are things that are happening here, and it has nothing to do with love. Still, I do not know what is love, but one thing is, this is not love.
Fair point. Agreed on that.
So is love something that helps us forget ourselves for?
See, when something is helping us to forget ourselves, why we want to forget ourselves is ugliness, right?
Yeah.
Some sort of ugliness within me. And
Yeah.
how can this ugliness bring out love? I fail to understand. What is there in me is ugliness, and an action born out of ugliness will be still ugly only. You can color it, you can mask it, you can fancy dress it, you can style it, but still it is inside, it is only ugliness.
So is it something that brings beauty to our life?
No, see, let us not speculate. But my simple question is this love? To me, it is not. Are we there?
No, I agree. I agree with your statement that something that gives us pain eventually is not love.
Right. So it's not eventually, every step is not a pain. It starts with the pain. It starts with the pain of living with myself. It starts with the pain that I cannot live with myself. Therefore, I am dependent on the other. I'm attached to the other. So it starts with the pain. It has to end with the pain. Not that the pain has come in between or at the end. If you are a little bit aware, if you are alert, if you are intelligent, you understand that it starts with the pain, right? What gets involved gets evolved. So what gets involved here is pain, and it will also evolve into more or less pain. The manifestation of the pain could be different, but still it is the whole part of the pain. It is still pain only. So I'm trying to understand what starts with the pain, lives with the pain, and if it ends with the pain, more pain, right? It cannot be love. So now, is it possible to talk about love by giving a definition? I doubt it. But when Muthu told me this, that the act of, that is how we are living today. That is what we have been conditioned, made to think, made to go through, that this attachment and relationship that stands this kind of pain, a relationship that stands this kind of attachment or ownership or belongingness is not love. This is how we have been conditioned traditionally by the society, by the religion, by the books we read, by the romantic novels we read. All these things movies we see are beautifully conditioned our mind that the self-centered activity is part of love, which we have started to question. So when I started to question this, I am also, something else comes to me, that at this point of time, I don't know, as we explore this dialogue, where it will go, I do not know. But at this point, I am also quite clear that I cannot, at least for me personally, I cannot say what is love at this point of time. But one thing I can say completely comprehensively, what is not love, and I think that is where we have to start. First, I am going to point out, or we have to together point out all the unintelligent parts, all the pain points, all the painful aspects, all the hurtful aspects, all the sorrowful aspects. If it is sorrowful, if it is painful, if it is unintelligent, and then these are not love. What gives us pain, suffering, hurt can never be love. So I am going into first all the known things. See, in that Muthu started off being self-centered activity, selfishness. In that relationship is born out of pain, will end in pain, will end in suffocation. So it is obviously not love. Now, Arul came and said, caring for somebody is love. See, few days back, somebody, a couple of days earlier, I had a conversation with somebody from our group. This person tells me that the person's child is doing something in the kitchen. The kitchen is smelling good, right? The kitchen is smelling good. And the person says, the child says to the person, night you cannot have it. It may disturb your health. Morning I'll give you, you can have it. So this person says, my child's care for me is love. And that is what Arul also started with. Caring for somebody is love. I am not denying the fact caring for somebody is love is not what I'm denying, but I am questioning something else, which this conversation I had with the person. So caring for my own son caring for me, my child caring for my child, and my child caring for me, is it love? Is my question to that person. And now I'm asking here also.
But regardless of whether it is my child or, regardless of that, that's a care for one human being on another human being, right?
No. See, that is what I said. Caring for somebody is love. So I'm trying to understand what is that care, what is that love.
So that's responsibility. I will put it as responsibility.
No, it is not on responsibility, because responsibility is responding rightly. Responding to something rightly is responsibility, as the word implies, right? I may narrow it and call it, it's a sense of duty.
Duty, right.
But I question that also, because it's a sense of duty, because duty is very object oriented, it's very outcome oriented, right? So caring for my own son, is it care? Is it love?
No.
Duty.
See what?
No. Krishnaji, sorry to interrupt. Because caring for my own son, is it love? How can I deny that?
No.
It's responsibility or whatever name it is.
No. Let us see. That is my point. Now let us go into it step by step.
So just to give an example, right? If he is not well, ensuring that I take him to doctor, stay awake the entire night if required to ensure that, put wet cloth on his head to bring the fever down. All these are my duties, not necessarily love. Because I'm a father and probably he won't be able to do it by himself, or he's not mentally clear enough to do it by himself.
See. No. Let us not. It's a very simple thing I like to point out. I like to understand when you say my son. So when I was talking to this person the other night, right? It was on a message. It was on a WhatsApp thing. So I was putting this my, my as caps. So to highlight that word, right? So caring for my son means what? Caring for my child means what? I'm stressing on that word my here.
My is basically selfish. Something of you own.
So it is part of that original self-centered activity.
Correct.
I will not even call it selfish for the time being. I will call it as a part of the self-centered activity. So caring for something that is mine, caring that something, it is about me here. When I say my child, it is about me here. Caring for something for myself, is it really care and love? Is my question. See, I am not saying don't care. I am not judging it, but we are just understanding whether it is part of that care, what we call care and love, is it part of that love? Because you understand, a child, I'm emphasizing, I'm stressing on that word, a child, any child, and my son. Care means what? How do you, what is the meaning of the word care? If I say I care for you, what does that really imply? Action with care is what?
I'm concerned about you.
I have a responsibility towards you.
I'm concerned about you.
Responsibility.
See, having a concern and action are very different. You can still have a concern for the beggar on the road, but your action could be very indifferent. So when I say care, there is no concern at all there. When I say care, it is only action. What do you mean by action with care? It means right action, right? It means right action. Action with care means right action. Right in the sense, or not in the sense of judgmental of being good or bad, right? It is right action where the consequences are not dangerous, or the outcome of that action is not dangerous at all. That is where I care. And when I care for somebody, I really don't care whether what I get or not get. So action with care, that's it. Right action. Whether that right action has certain implied outcomes for me or not, it doesn't really. But when I say my son and caring for my son, caring for my child, is it love?
That may be a correct definition or not, I don't know, but that is love. That's definitely love. I tell you the same example like what Muthu just mentioned, right? He said responsibility, staying awake in the night, changing the wet cloths. Okay, a nurse can do it better than all of us, that's for sure. But what Muthu will feel? I mean, this guy should get better. If he is God-fearing, he will also pray for it. Or he will see how this child is feeling. He's not able to sleep. How can I make him comfortable? How can I hug him so that he can sleep?
When care implies, Arul, when care implies right action, please go into it a little bit further. Right action means right action for your child and right action for my child, or it is right action. Is it right action?
You mean right action means should be common to all. That's what you mean. Is it?
Yes. Is it not? It's not
Okay.
what I mean. It should be.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not right action.
Okay.
No. Is it?
Okay.
Is it? Let us stop there. Let us stop there step by step. Do we agree that right action means it's right action? Not that what is right to you is wrong to me. That is a judgmental, that's moralistic, that is good and bad, that is different. But when I say right action, an action that has no dangerous consequences, an action that has no conscious outcomes or benefit or profit for me, those are the right actions. Action with care, right actions. Sensitivity, that is what we call sensitivity. To be sensitive means to act with care, right actions. Now, can I be sensitive to one in a different way and sensitive to another in a very different way? I cannot. So there are two things involved. When I see now, I get to the next stage, I see two things involved here. There's something within us called the thinking and the feeling. Correct? Thinking and the feeling. Now, is the thinking and feeling integrated within us, or is it compartmentalized?
What do you mean by compartmentalized?
I think and feel differently for my
Many
son.
times what we
I
think.
think and feel differently for a child.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It is.
So when I think and feel in one direction for my son or my child, and when I think and feel differently for a child, is it care? Now you see the difference? Because now it is my son, I think and act differently. My thinking and feeling is different because it is my son. It is something profitable to me. There's something about me here.
Yes.
So what is there is about me. I care because it is mine. I'm not saying go to the opposite, throw to the road. Don't go, but we are only pointing out that when I think and feel differently for a child, and I think and feel differently for my child, it means what? My thinking and feeling differs because it is mine. It is about me. It is about me. So what I care for, is I care for a child or I care for my child? I care for me, mine there, I, me and the mind.
Yeah.
So is it care, is it love?
Okay. So okay. Ma'am, you go first.
So if we think and feel the same for my child and a child, then it is love and care.
Let us not speculate. Let us not. We are only finding out, are we doing it and is it love?
No, but if it is so, then it is love. Otherwise, it is
no.
not.
I'm not saying we are not defining love. We are only understanding what is not love. I'm sorry.
Okay, Krishna ji.
So if we think only for my,
Okay, ma'am. Continue, please.
No, but if we think and feel one for my child differently from a child, then it's definitely not love. Yeah.
No, I disagree. I disagree here because this is because of Krishna ji's definition of care. Right action. Right action irrespective of the people. Is that what the definition of care, Krishna ji?
Right action.
Right, good. So right action is the definition of care. So according to that definition of care, this is not love.
No. See, let us be very clear, Arul, here. It is not Krishna's definition. Then how do you tell what is care?
Good. Care itself, the definition of care itself, the action depends on the person. It can't be a universal action for all person. That's my humble opinion. The definition of care, again I repeat, itself is different.
Is it not then purely convenience?
No, what is wrong in that? That's my question.
Please,
I agree.
Please. I started by saying there's nothing wrong, right? We are not judging.
Okay.
We are pointing out what is there.
Correct. Okay.
But if I say that I care for you, for example, please try to understand this. I care for you in a certain fashion, and I care for Muthu in certain other fashion. What it means?
Okay. It's a biased love.
No. It means
it's bias. Some bias.
No. It's not bias. No, it is not. But you can call it bias. Please take it slow step. I care for you in a particular way, and I care for Muthu in a particular way. What it means? That suppose let us say I care for you in a better way, and I care for Muthu in a less better way. For example, what it means?
You love Arul more.
Not that I love Arul more. Arul is more important to me than Muthu.
Okay.
There's something about something I have with the connection with Arul that is more profitable for me, that is more important for me. So it is my care for Arul is not because he is Arul. My care for Arul is because he is something to me.
Correct. Self-centered. It's with respect
to
that
is not care at all. I take care of myself. I take care of my interests. My son is my interest, it's not my care. Investing in my son, time or energy is my interest, it is not care. Muthu is nothing to me, nobody to me. And if I show care, that is care.
So it so happened, Krishna, like there was a doctor who visited from India. He's a family friend. So while we were going around here, this guy, there was a guy who was lying on the platform. Immediately he went and felt his pulse. I was like taken aback. He was here on a visitor visa, and the moment he saw a person lying on the platform, he went to feel his pulse. But we warned him that you are on a visitor visa. If there is any issue, you'll have to you'll face issues, legal issues, and all that. So please be aware of that before you do anything. Is what we had to warn him. So do you think this is care or?
Could be. I really don't know.
Krishna ji, care vana maati vechikalam. Okay, we'll take it care. Okay, we'll go with your definition of care. Care should be universal and it should be irrespective of the people's importance and bias. Okay, let us keep.
And taking care of my interests are two different things. I'm invested in my son, my house, my country, my language, my. So it is part of that self-centered activity. It's an extension of the self-centered activity, and then it is not care or love. So first, any activity that is part of a self-centered activity, that attachment is not love. We are saying first, we do not know what is love, but we are saying attachment is not love. We are now saying caring for something that is mine is not part of love.
Okay, Ji. Okay, let us say that. Let us take your definition. Okay, because right now we also don't know the correct definition, right? We are trying to eliminate things.
Just to clarify on the doctor's example, mostly I see it as duty, because the same can be applicable for, you see a policeman and if he finds somebody quarreling to, in the street off duty, he may come and intervene. So mostly it's duty. So doctor's responsibility is somebody lying there, somebody is hurt. Typically they won't just check the pulse. They at least try to do what they can do. Okay? Mostly I see that as a duty.
It's a simple act of kindness, okay?
Or is it an act of love for the profession? So it is a my involved there. It's an act of love for my profession.
It could be.
Duty, that's it. It's simple.
See, probably if we extend this example in a different way, the doctor finds somebody very poor, then what happens? Not sick.
Invariably,
he may treat that sick person, the poor person, free, but he's a healthy person, but he's very poor. What do I do? I don't know. So I that's why I said I really don't know. So coming back to our exploration, our dialoguing, attachment is not love. what I care for is part of me, is an extension of me, is not love. It is not love. Right? Then we have this great, especially with couples, especially with man to man, being envious, being jealous, right? All these things is being termed as love. It cannot be love. Am I right? Being possessive is not part of love. Being possessive is not part of love, because possessiveness is about your own fears, your own insecurities. It's an extension of the self-centered activity, right? So I am trying to find out what is love, but I do not know what is love. So I am questioning. I've started to explore. I've started to question all the things what I know, right? All the things what I know, I started questioning. So in that, when I see the selfishness, the attachment, possessiveness, caring for my son, caring for my country, the duty, right? All these things, wherever the extension of the self is there, it is not love. This is a simple and obvious fact. Now,
Krishnaji, sorry, the last sentence, right? That is what I'm concerned about. You said anything that is self-centered, anything that is my attached to it, that is not called love. That is what the last sentence concluded. So my only question is, okay, before we go to the next step, I just want only one clarification. My care or care to my son, if it is not love, what is it called as?
my interest, I'm taking care of my interest.
So that is not love. So caring for anyone with respect to my, if I say something my on that, it is not love. It is only interest. That's what you're saying, right?
I'm not saying that's a fact. You have to see it. You will not do the same thing if it's not your son.
Okay, please continue.
Now, again, this comes to a point where something has to, the self is all about the deep sorrow we live in, right? The self is about the deep sorrow we live in. So to me, now, what is ending that deep sorrow, the deep suffering, what it ends is passion. We have already seen that. To be passionate about is to put your heart, mind, body, energy into something. So only in suffering, in sorrow, we do that. Our completely we put into something, and when we put something completely into it, our mind, our thoughts, our heart, our body, our energy is completely into something, right? Now being passionate is about ending suffering, right? But it could be one of the sufferings. It could be still my own suffering. Now I like to ask, what is compassion?
Okay, compassion, right? For me, right, it's a simple act of kindness. For example, if you go, if you are going out somewhere, you see an old grandma, someone is walking, maybe a difficulty is carrying things, you help her, you know, without, you don't even know who is this. Okay, you can just handhold her, take her over to the escalator or somewhere to the left, or carrying her things.
Venkat, the problem with being philanthropic or charitable or kind in most cases, right? The problem, the challenge of being philanthropic or charitable or kind is, what I see is, suppose I see a beggar on the road. Today I feed him at 1 o'clock. I feed him a good lunch, right? Tomorrow at same 1 o'clock, what happens to him?
Normally nothing.
Huh?
I mean, If I see him, I'll do it. If I don't see, that's it.
No, I am not
Don't
asking. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, probably you don't see him, you see him. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, what happens to him? The same time.
To me, I mean, if I do it, nothing happens actually. I don't feel, I don't think whether I have, the guy had eaten or
No, you have not got my question, Venkat.
Okay.
I am asking, today afternoon, 1 o'clock, you feed a poor beggar.
Okay.
Tomorrow, 1 o'clock, what happens to that beggar?
Oh, to the beggar. Okay. Cannot say, maybe he get food from someone or
He's still a beggar.
Hungry. He's still a beggar. Yeah.
He's still a beggar. So
yeah.
our act of kindness, our act of charity, our act of philanthropy has not altered things much. In that sense, has not altered poverty much. So we are understanding, not through certain actions, but we are understanding deeply what is compassion.
So since passion is something that, that has a lot of suffering, that involves a lot of suffering to the end of all suffering, is compassion. I mean, this is something that comes on top of my mind. This was something that came immediately, and I'm not, and it's not something that I learned or read somewhere, but does come in the compassion, does it read does that refer to comradeship or something like that, like for the fellow person?
See,
feeling that kind of
what is passion?
suffering.
What is passion? What is passion?
It's the deep sense of suffering to end our suffering.
See, when somebody asked me what is compassion, something came to my mind some time back. Compassion has two parts. Compassion has two parts. The second is quite common. The second half is quite common. And the first half is common. Compassion has two halves. The second half is quite common, and the first half is common. What it means?
Can I say it's common passion? Like
yes.
Everybody.
It is common passion. So we have passion for something, one thing, something, a few things. But passion means to end suffering. Passion's root meaning is coming, it is not to my own fancy, I'm saying this, right? Passion's root meaning is coming from the word suffering. So it is to end suffering. So is there a quality of action, is the quality of mind, is the quality of state of being where we have a common passion for, or we have compassion. Probably you have passion for your job. You have passion for collecting stamps. You have passion for something. You have passion for taking Tamil to a greater canvas. You have passion about, Hinduism or Christianity or Islam. That's okay, fine, right? But common passion for everything. It means what? What does that word common means?
Generally, fellow human beings or fellow life.
Yeah.
Ending suffering for a fellow human
not
being.
Uniform.
Or fellow life. That's
you can never do it. You cannot end the suffering of even the other person. Even one another person you cannot end.
No.
So what does the word common sense denote?
So is it like feeling, you suffering for somebody else's pain?
What does the word common sense mean?
Common sense, which is like a sense that
sense that is not commonly available.
Very true, very true.
Not common sense.
Right? See, there is sense. The word sense means what?
Sensing, like eyes.
being sensitivity, like, right? Being
That is
sensitive
intelligence.
to.
That the word sense denotes intelligence.
Yeah.
Being sensitive.
Mm.
So that is part of intelligence. So there are specific sense. Being a lawyer, being an artificial intelligence specialist, being a teacher, being a finance professional, being a doctor, being a chartered accountant. These are specific sense, right? But a sense that is common to all, right? That is why we are saying to cross the road, you need not have the sense of an engineer, you should have common sense. So, and common sense is one of the highest forms of intelligence because it is common to all. It is not your sense or my sense. It is not purposeful sense. It is not specific sense. It is common to one and all. That is why common sense. That is why it is not easily available. You see, you can solve any problem with common sense. Any problem. Any problem. Poverty, nuclear bomb, wars. Common sense, you can solve any problem. Because it is not about you and me, it is about common. So in that common passion, compassion, common sense, compassion, there is no self-centeredness. It is common. There is no I, me, and the mind there. There are no self-interest there. Therefore, if I'm able to have that passion completely within me first, for all the things within me, my thinking, my feeling, right, my knowledge, all these things, my physical, if I'm going to have that intense passion, that common passion, it means what? The self is no more. The absent, the denial, the action of the self as we know. In that sense, the self is nothing but a bundle of memories, bundle of sorrow, the bundle of that part of that consciousness, all these things, all the mischief is there in self. And somebody asked me, why are you making the self a villain? Somebody asked me, why are you making the self a villain? To you, the self is always a villain. I told them, self is not a villain to me, it is evil to me. Because where there is the self, as we know, where there is the self, there can be no care, no common sense, no compassion, no sensitivity, no intelligence, right? There can be no love. See, Arul probably has a challenge when he hears, now I'm not asking you to tomorrow go out on the road and treat every child, every child the way you have to treat your son. That is not the point. But the point is it possible to come to your own son? Is it possible to come to your own child as a child? It is not the ulta. That is insane. That can be the most stupid thing to do. It is not about feeding some beggars on the road. But can you be compassionate to your own son? That means, can you look at your son? Can you look at your daughter? Can you look at your child as a child? Not look at the other children as your children. Looking at other children as your children is just empathy, which has no value. Put it to the dustbin. Just to feel for somebody and act differently and be indifferent has no value at all. I stand in your shoes. I understand your pain. I don't do anything about that pain. That is empathy. But compassion is action. Now, please don't try to go. A lot of you got caught because you are trying to project. How is it possible? How do I treat a child, every child that I come across, like my child? My challenge is to let go, to end that my child and look at your child, look at my child with compassion, through compassion. Look at my child as her child. Is it possible? Then you start looking at care. Then you start looking at love. Then there is a scope for the unintelligent activities with your relationships coming to an end. Then there is a scope for intelligence to flower. Then in that intelligence is part of love. In that intelligence is part of freedom. That freedom is part of responsibility. That responsibility is part of happiness. So, is it possible for me to have that compassion in me first, and through the eyes of compassion, through the state of compassion, first can I look at my child without that mind? Whether is it possible to look at my child as a child? Because you do all the pushing, all the stupid parenting, trying to force the child to become something, being something, want him to be something, want him to become something. All this is because of the mischief of my child. That is not care, it is self-interest. It is not care, it is self-interest, taking care of your own property. It is my child, your property. You are treating it as a property psychologically. But is it possible to come to approach my child as a child? But it is frightening because we know how we treat a child, right, with contempt. We know how, that is not what I mean here, to treat your own child with contempt. Because we treat the outside world with contempt. We treat outside world with ugliness. We meet the outside world with, the thinking and feeling are diverse. So that integration of thinking and feeling, that having having that togetherness, as long as there's a self-centered activity, the thinking and feeling will be divided. Any self-centered activity will have this thinking and feeling divided. Where the self-centered activity comes to an end, then that integration of, not that you can bring about the integration of the thinking and feeling, right? You cannot, but you can be aware that they are diverse, they are separated. When you are acting, when you are doing something, when you are talking to somebody, that means if you are aware that your thinking, your mind and heart factor, all of us are focusing on the mind factor. As long as the mind is operating, there will be separation, there will be self-centeredness, right? The heart. So is it possible to approach a relationship by emptying the mind of its content? Emptying the mind of its content is emptying the mind of the self-centeredness activity. Then you cannot fill the heart. You cannot fill the heart. Then the heart will start by itself getting filled with that intelligence, with that feeling. Then the integration of the heart and the mind, the thinking and the feeling faculties come together, right? The coming of the thinking and feeling faculty together is what I call it love. It has become common. It has become common. It has become one. But today I think for my son and feel for my son in a way, and I think and feel for us child in a very different way. And that is where the separatedness comes. That is where the compassion dissolves. That is where the self-centered activity takes over. So it is not about looking at a child as my child. Please don't do it, because you are already corrupted your child enough. Don't corrupt the world now. My question is it possible to look at my child, your child as a child without what that my holds, that knowledge of that my holds, that mischievous that my holds? Then your relationship with anybody without that mind is transformative. There cannot be any hurt. There cannot be any pain. Still, the other person could be very different, but when you are looking at it with that integration is totally different. Any questions and your thoughts on the sessions? So we'll start with the, go ahead, Muthu.
People often, nowadays people often talk about, self-love. Okay. Similar to, I still probably self-pity is something which I heard after a very long time in one of your session only, but off late I'm, seeing a lot of people doing a lot of session about self-love. You have to love yourself. So morning get up, look at mirror, say that you are beautiful, you're this, you're that, right? And it's all about self-assurance of putting up to the pathetic life, or in turn self-pity, correct? So when you say the thinking and feeling, coming together and be one, that itself is kind of little hard to understand and digest as to. I'm just trying to give an example. Unfortunately, I'm not able to, think of any more appropriate example, but I'm still trying to kind of, I understand where self is involved, love cannot be clear. Where, thinking and feeling are divided, love cannot be there. Okay. I get that point. But how this thinking and feeling of the integration of thinking and feeling will lead to a love. I'm still trying to get a sense on that.
That is why we do not know. That is why we have eliminated all the known and now come to the unknown. We eliminate all the known. Whatever we know in the name of care, in the name of attachment, in the name of affection, in the name of love, in the name of love, what we do with attachment, jealousy, envy, possessiveness, sex, all these things we have negated. We have taken them away. All the known we have brought to an end. So when all the known has come to an end, it means the mind has emptied its content. Am I right? The mind is about the known. So the operation of the mind ceases. The feeling comes into existence. So can I be aware, right? When I'm talking to my son, that I don't own him. He has come through me biologically, but psychologically he is by himself. He is free there. Then my conversation with my relationships will be totally different. Not just my child, but any relationship.
Understood.
Is it possible for you cannot bring about integration? What will bring about integration is the self only. Right? So is it possible for me to understand that when I'm talking to Muthu and talking to Arul, I am talking in a very different way. The way I care for Muthu is I think for Muthu and feel for Muthu in a different way. Then I think and feel for Arul in a very different way. Am I aware of it? So even materially you leave it. Is it possible for me to say hello or respectfully with love, with affection, a courtesy wish right from my security to the chairman? So when I wish my chairman, it means that what? I love my chairman, I care for my chairman. Because he is my chairman. There's some interest, self-interest. Tomorrow, if he notices I have not wished, he might remove me from the project, or he may not give me business. He may. So you understand. So my interest comes out of my fear. What is it for me? The self-centeredness activity. And I know that if I walk through the watchman, I scorn at him. I look at him with contempt, and I derive certain pleasure. Right? You are under me. You are an ordinary person. But is it possible for me to pause there? Hello, how are you? Can I be conscious there? Then what happens is this separatedness of thinking and feeling ends. Automatically it brings integration. You cannot go in search of integration. You cannot seek integration, because what will seek is the self, and the self out of its own interest will try to seek the integration. So I am saying, is it possible at every point to be aware of the activities of the self? That self will always, if you take any action of yours, any action of yours, the thinking and feeling will be in compartments, will be separate. There will not be any integration. So when I act, when I talk, when I think, am I aware of this compartmentalization? Am I aware of this separatedness? Is my question. Yes. Thoughts on the session, please.
Thanks, sir.
Any thoughts on the session?
Session was started on a very lighter note, and brought back my old memories and all. But yeah, it kind of helps. We all say the word love for the sake of saying, but the true meaning, or at least what is not love, is very clear. Okay, so at least once, as you rightly said, once you are aware of what is not love, okay, then it's something which you have to sense and feel that what exactly love is. So thanks for that.
Now, once you are aware what is not love, and you stay there, not trying to do anything about it, just being aware of it totally, that comes to an end. It means what? When that comes to what not is love, when it comes to an end, it means the self as we know comes to an end with all its baggage. Then when the self is not, love is there.
Thanks.
Yes, Shantanu.
Okay. Krishna. Okay. This brings to me, brings a question to me. Okay. The thing is, okay, someone, there is someone, right, who treats every child equally. Any child, doesn't think, differently. Okay. So my child, other person's child, something like that. Okay. Treats everyone more or less equally. Okay. So if the other child's parent does not treat the person's child the same way, how the person will feel?
No, I am not able to get your question.
Okay, for example, right, it's me, right? So myself treat my son and your son same way. Okay, same way. This don't see any difference. Okay, something like that. But if you don't see in the same way, you don't look my son and your son in the same way. So what will happen?
No, how do you feel? If I don't treat your son as I treat my son, how do you feel?
Basically, I don't feel much, but I just wanted to know, it is. Sometimes it may hurt, but sometimes I don't feel anything.
If it hurts, but the self is operating.
Yeah. Okay. So but still I don't treat both. Still I try to treat both child in the same way. So is it?
No, my question is, Venkat, very simple. First, I'm not doubting it, I'm not questioning it, but I'm putting it as a general perspective question.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
How do I treat my son is the first question. I question that because our approach, our actions, our connections with our children are primarily not care and love. It is self-interest. So that is why I'm saying I'm not looking at treating the outside children as my children, but I'm more, my thing is it possible to look at my child as a child? not with the contempt of what I see a child, but you understand, when I treat my child with certain amount of expectation, certain amount of attachment, without all these things, still I'm responsible. Still I do what is responsible for my child. Still I do what is necessary for my child. Then there's absolutely no self-interest in bringing up the child. And I do what is right for a child, I do for my child also. Then what happens?
So I have an example here. Can I
Yes,
ask about it? So I know of someone who used. I mean, he's now retired. He's now well into his 60s. He used to work with the Kalpakam power station, right? And what he did was like around his place, he adopted a few. He himself has two children, and then every year, so around this area there are some kids who are in the underprivileged kids. He chooses some of these kids, and every year at least two kids he brings them to his home, and from 9th standard to 12th standard he teaches them and nurtures them at their home, he and his wife. And then after 12th standard he ensures that they go to a good college, and thereby he enables their families. He has improved their families well-being also. Some of these kids have gone to do PhD, and one or two of these kids, one is in Europe at the moment, and one other is at Japan somewhere at the moment. So is this compassion, is this love? And he treats his children the same way as how he treated this. So there was equal rights for all these children that grew up in his home alongside his own children.
See, again, I don't know. I start there. I don't know whether this person, because it will be like sitting on judgment. But I question the whole. I question the whole structure of what our society is based. First, we earn a living, and little more. More rich one is, more money one has than what one actually needs. And I leave it to you to be very liberal, very generous about your needs. So more money, more rich oneness. For example, recently, couple of years back, I met one of India's biggest philanthropists. So he was talking to me about his philanthropy activity and his foundation, all these things he was talking to me. And he told me that he has given a massive portion of his wealth to his foundation. And I hope that he had it. I hope my fellow billionaires in India, at least within India, I hope I set an example that the fellow billionaires, fellow businessmen, rich people follow my footsteps, to give it back to the society. So he was quite happy, very accomplished, very fulfilled man till he met me, unfortunately. Then I asked him, you gave so much to the society, now where did it come from? From the society. So you are taking it from society, you are giving it to the society, and then you are calling it philanthropy, charity. It's like taking something from the bank, loan, and repaying your loan and saying that I have done a charitable service to the bank. Would you do that?
No, but this
please,
guy.
No, first answer me this. Is this, I've asked a question, is this charity? Certainly not, right? When I get 1 lakh rupee from you, then I give it back to you, right? Then I say that I go to Venkat and say I have done charity to Savita. Is it charity?
No.
Certainly not. Now, my question is to him then, and to any of you here, how did you get so much of wealth? What got involved in making such wealth?
Actually, right, Krishna, this is the question I also have. The thing is, okay, for example, right, see, for example, I'm not against billionaires or something, right? I just tell you, okay, I'm not a jealous guy, okay, to be, and thing is, see, you make more money means you are not distributing to down the line who are working with you. That means, for example, let me take Amazon as an example. Okay, Jeff Bezos is making a lot of money. Okay, but why the normal Amazon employee who is uh, earns very less? That means the storekeeper or someone who works in the store that makes very less because they are the core stuff. They are the one who are running the Amazon. They are the one who's making money for Amazon, but they get very less portion of the pie. By right, they should get the major amount, right? But they are not getting it.
No. Simply put,
For example,
wait, Mr. Venkat. What Venkat this is exactly what that gentleman told me in a very simple word. When I asked this question to that gentleman, how did you make such money? He told me very simply. Now Venkat is going into some details. Can anybody here even guess what the gentleman told me?
No, Krishna, I can't. Really.
My people made money for me, something like that.
Well, by taking advantage of the less privileged people.
Yes, that's what Venkat went into some detail. You are giving much more concrete shape to that activity. You know, the gentleman told what he told, I have exploited others. Knowingly or unknowingly. My richness, my billions came through exploitation. My billions is part of profit of exploitation, act of exploitation. And you're right, Krishna, this is nowhere close to charity. See, there's a story. I told him then, there's a story, a famous story. This Arjuna asks Krishna, as if, you know, Karna is a very big charitable person. What nonsense. How do you call him charitable? You give me, I will also give, man. Not just Karna. He tells Krishna, you give me $1 billion, you give me Jeff Bezos' wealth, you see, I'll distribute, oh, is it so? You want to know the difference? Yes. So, Arjuna is taken to a huge mountain of gold. Mountain of gold. And Krishna says, now you show me how charitable are you. So Arjuna studies the whole mountain, then does a census through around the villages, finds out how many people are there, how many should be given what kind of gold. Then he makes a large queue. So everyone comes, Krishna, you take 2 kg, Arul, you take 4 kg. One by one, he starts distributing. And it is taking forever. So now Krishna says, now you want to know what Karna will do. He calls Karna and says, this is the mountain of gold. What do you want to do? He looks, 2 people are walking. He calls the both. He says, you take this stuff, you take that stuff. He walks away. That's all. You understand? So, all these activities of philanthropy are, this conversation started with Savita about that gentleman from Kalpakam, that activity of his. I don't know, still I don't know. I don't want to comment about it. I really don't know. But I earn first and then give it back is exploitation. Is my simple point.
But this guy, I'm not sure. But I mean, one of his one time I once happened to, I know him very well, and once I happened to interact with him, and in one of our interactions I asked him, so do you expect these guys to give back to the society also, or do you expect them, or do you want to have a multiplicative effect? So what's your plan? It's like, why should I constrain them, or why should I state that they should do this kind of like do this? These are the guys who are first generation educated, who needed a hand to hold and come up, and that's all I did. And I'm not taking ownership of anything. It's up to them to take care of their lives after this. I don't even bother, even if they don't complete their degree after this. I mean, I won't even complain. I won't complain that I have put in so much of effort, you haven't done this or that or whatever. So it's completely up to them to shape their life. If and when they would need my help at any point in life, I will be here, just like I am for my friends. Yeah.
I would look at this in a very different light.
Mm-hmm.
If I brought my own son without ambition, if I brought my own son without the spirit of that stupid, horrible spirit of competition, comparison, and trying to be better than you, better than somebody else, that is ambition, right? That is success. If I have brought one life into this world without ambition,
Mm-hmm.
then I think we have done more charity to the world than educating another 100 people. Because in ambition, there's greed, right? In ambition, there's acquisition. In the ambition, there's more. In the ambition, there's better. And essentially, when I educate a person, only academic education, I create more and more and more and more ambitious people. Which is, see, that is why I'm saying doing charity is very questionable. What we do is very obvious. What we do is charity, giving out to some people. But what happens, why we give, what really happens, if I go into the crux of it, then charity is not the answer for poverty. Philanthropy is not the answer. The answer is the psychological revolution that man can have in consciousness of cutting off the self, ending the self. And is it possible to bring up people with compassion? That would be the right question.
But Krishna, in this world where, so that I beg to disagree here, because there is a natural disparity in the world, and there is a group of people, or there is a vast majority of people who are below the poverty line. So for them to think about
one second, please stay there for a second. Please hold on there for a second. Right?
Yeah.
Now, how did this inequality come into being?
Because some people
were senseless before.
Were exploited.
So you are saying that you will create more ambitious people and try to fight poverty?
No, so this is like providing opportunities for this exploited people.
No.
Yeah.
First there was a population of 1,000. There was a population of 1,000. Right? Now in that 1,000, some people had certain skills, certain knowledge. Through that, they knew how to make money. They started exploiting.
I wouldn't say this 1,000. Sorry to interrupt you here, but at least in the context of Tamil Nadu, it's not like these 1,000 people. Some of them had some skills that made them exploit the others. It was like some of these people were forced to not expose their skills, except for very menial skills. I'm talking of the levels that were set based because of Hinduism and stuff, the Brahmanism, the Kshatriya, and so on, right? So this class of people were forced. So we must.
No. See, please. I think you're missing the whole point. When a part of the people were forced, the other part was exploiting it. Simple.
True. Yes.
See, that exploitation started. Now I am giving one thread of the example saying that I am a doctor, I can cure people, I started exploiting. Now I have a position by birth, calling myself a Brahmin, I start exploiting. What's the difference? I'm only talking about exploitation. You are giving me a different cause. I'm looking at the whole problem. You're taking one thread, which is again dangerous.
Yeah.
So 1,000 people were there on this earth. 1,000 people were there on this earth. 10 people had some special skill, capacity, or privilege. Out of the 10, they started exploiting the remaining 9,990. They made enormous wealth. And then for them to have certain comfort, they wanted certain people around them. So they gave a portion of that wealth to their managers or vice presidents or GMs or ministers or whatever you may call. But they held the majority. The 10 held the majority. Now the inequality, poverty inequality happened because of the exploitation of these 10 people. It started there. Now what is the model, economic model we are trying to do is, we are trying to equip them, the remaining. So over a period of time, what has happened is, out of this 9,990, another 100 people started questioning them. Why should I follow you? Why should I be exploited? I will go my own way. They also started developing some skills. Now, this led to some sort of divisions. This led to some sort of nations, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, some linguistics, some color, some language, some stupidity. It started dividing. Everyone had a leader. That leader is supposed to take care of them by fighting the other. What brought us together is not love, but the hatred for the 10. The 100 have come together, it's not out of the love for the community, but the hatred for the 10. When 10 people come together, when a group is formed, please try to understand, the energy that brings a group together is never love or consideration or compassion. It is for, they come together to hatred. Is it not a fact?
But in this case, is it not compassion for the
please. I'm not finished. Please. So let us. No, I come together out of hatred. I hate 10. I have formed 100 because the 100 also want to challenge the 10 or want to become. Please try to understand. I want to be treated like the 10. I want to become like the 10. Who are those 10? Very compassionate people.
No.
So I want to become like what? Another 10 exploiters. Now 100 people want to become like that 10. Now I'm multiplying. Let us say even 30% of them succeed. Now what was earlier 10 has now become 40. Now seeing this 40, another 400 is upspringing. Hatred is happening. Now what we are saying is, we want through the mechanization of economics or charity or the name of uplifting poverty, we are saying the bottom of the people should have the facilities, psychologically also have been ambitious like the top 40. So we are creating more 40s. Please try to understand. So this is the trick which we are living with. But if I want to create an equal society, then you cannot think about my people, your people. You have to think about
our people.
When you start thinking about people, then your solutions are very different. This poverty can never be eradicated because the whole fabric of our society is based on envy, jealousy, ambition. I want to be better than you. I have to get something better than you. What is it for me? Even the lowest so-called socioeconomic people have this thought process, and that glorifying becomes an ambitious visionary person. So you are saying that the bottom 900 should be uplifted to the top 100. I see it as the bottom 900 should be transformed like the top 100 with the same exploitative mindset, which is very dangerous. This is not the way to kill poverty. You can never kill it. And that's what we have seen. Thousands of years we have fought poverty, we have not ended poverty. It is only that inequality is growing.
So how do you think we can kill poverty?
That's what I said earlier. The psychological transformation of the man. If you can create one person, your own son, without ambition, with compassion, you are succeeded in that. I am not asking your son to go and beg. I am not asking your son to live in poverty. Let him be very responsible for himself. But if I'm going to bring up a son who's extremely ambitious, extremely competitive, extremely, then at 70 he will form Savita Foundation and then distribute that. It is the biggest joke one has to live with. That is what's happening in today's world. You cannot.
I don't believe in charity or philanthropy, because it's like hand washing. You do a one time money transfer and that's it, you're done. I don't believe in that, but this kind of empowerment is something.
See, that is what is empowerment to us. The 900, 8 being the 100. Please try to understand. And what is that 100? We have never thought about bringing the 100 to the, taking that 100 and distributing. No, we are not thinking about that. We are thinking about how this 900 will become 100. Very dangerous. Already the 100, we are not able to manage this. Now this 900 also becomes like 100. Then there was only one anaconda. Now you want to make million anaconda. Now there was only 100 thieves. Now you want the 900 to become more thieves. Then.
But there's no way the 100 is going to distribute among the 900, right?
That is, you cannot. You both cannot happen. 900 by some way can become part of the 100. Some of the 900. But what you can do is, can you by yourself live with compassion? Can you by yourself live without ambition? Is the question.
I mean, if I'm not wrong, let me put what you say is, you don't want us to create one more 100.
Simple.
Add one more to the 100. Right?
I don't want even to create one more. So that one more is me. I'm starting there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I understand that compassion is the key, right? So, because let us stick to the point about the love, because poverty, eradication, commonality, social justice, okay, that's a different topic. So coming back to this one, right, compassion, I have a couple of questions there. First question is, when we started, we also discussed about, we are not going to discuss about sexual love only, is general love, right? So at that time you said that all the spiritual leaders, those guys, they were against the sex, because during that time is the time you forget yourself. And in the due course of your discussion, you also mentioned the point that self is not just a villain, it's an evil. So when you link these two, what do you try to say? Because that is the act where you completely forget yourself. And all the religious leaders say that
because you want to forget it, you want to indulge in more.
Okay. Yeah, it's like drinking alcohol or something. Yes, you forget yourself.
But even while drinking, the person who's drinking is still with the self. He's still unless until he gets totally knocked off.
Okay.
But in the act of sex, you understand the self is gone.
Okay, so it means the evil is gone. Can we take like that? Is that the message? I'm just trying to understand.
The evil is forgotten. It's not gone.
Okay, it's forgotten. Okay, it's hidden. Okay, camouflage. Okay, that's what you mean. Okay, so just to want to make.
And why I want to hide it? Then what I am resisting that self. That is why I'm indulging. Therefore, I'm giving more strength to that evil.
Okay, perfect. Fair enough. Yes, I understand. So just want to make it clear on that. Okay, a clue. Okay, so the second thing is you said that treat your child as a child rather than saying as my child. So can I put in this perspective, like treat my parents, my family as a family, in the sense that do your duty with care, responsibility. Just you mentioned a good word, with compassion, all these things without any expectation. Is that what you mean?
No,
because I want to understand it more.
No, see, I don't like the word duty at all. Duty is about self-interest. When a man is bound by duty, for example, a policeman does his duty out of self-interest. because of his uniform, because of his country, all that, because of his profession. Duty is about self-interest. Responsibility is totally different. So all I'm saying is, right, are you aware that when you are in this world, living in this world, that what is of the most concern to one is about the self. Every action that arises is out of self-interest, self-centeredness. The self is, we try to extend that self as much as possible. Am I aware of it?
Okay. Yeah. This is related to 2-3 weeks before, like the consciousness, what the things you are doing, right? So assume that, let us see that just for sake of discussion. Okay. I am completely aware of this. Then what?
No, see, there's no hypothetication here. No. When the self is gone, there is the sorrow is gone. When the self comes to an end, the sorrow comes to an end, the self comes to an end. In that sense, I live freely. That's all. That cannot be explained. That cannot be put into words. Now, again, the question I like to answer. I like to question, why do you want to know this? Because there's a self-interest there. What I will gain out of living like this is your question, indirectly.
Now, sorry. No, sorry, definitely not. Not like what I gain, because we already cleared this 1 or 3 weeks before. Is what I gain. That's not the point.
Why should we?
Why I'm asking this question is
no. Any outcome means what? When I act like this, what happens is an outcome. Outcome means what?
Outcome means something that matches expectations, something that's based on expectations.
Now, where does that expectation come from?
Because it's my child, from my.
Simple.
Okay, so right. So very good. Okay, perfect. So this is what I want to understand. So do all these things, whatever you do, with your child, with your parents, whatever it is, you do it, but without any expectations of outcome. Can I take it like that?
No.
Yeah.
Having no expectations, also having an expectation. Just to do, just to live.
Just do it. Okay, just do it. Okay.
Now
so
in
that's
front
because
of me,
what?
In front of me, my son is there. Now I am doing something because he's my son. Can I look at him as a child? Then my relationship with my son is totally transformed.
Okay, fair enough. Because the word compassion, right, is very difficult for me to understand. Of course, the literal meaning I know, but when I use the word, when you use this word often here, so just want to make sure that I clearly get your perspective. So that's why I wanted to ask this question. Now I think
common passion, the passion which I have for everything and everybody. So in that sense, my thinking, my knowledge, my mind, my body, my feeling, my heart is in sync. That is common. That is common passion.
Yeah, common passion. Okay.
And if I can have that for anything and everything. Not that I build that, I build that capacity, but is it possible for me to be aware the moments when I am not compassionate, when I'm not sensitive, when I'm not caring, when I'm not doing the right action, when I'm unintelligent? Is it possible for me to be aware of all those things? Then compassion comes into existence. Then the intelligence comes into existence. Then love by itself comes into existence. That is very different. You cannot go in search of love at all. Nobody can.
Thank you, Krishna. Clear. Thank you.
Shantapriya.
Nice. One other beautiful session, Krishna. Today I had many aha moments in the session. That removing of the mind from the equation is the crux or the key. Initially, when you started the discussion about caring for my son, is that love? I always thought, the other day also, as I mentioned, like care is an outcome of love. That's how I look at it. But then, at least today, the whole idea is to look at the other way around. When you gave that example, that was very good. Like it would be really foolish to start looking at every child as my child, but the whole idea is to start looking at my child as a child. That really makes a wonderful difference. Then I understand how is that my and mine gets eliminated. And the flow was also very good. As you said, when we start looking at this, then the thinking and feeling alignment comes in place, and then there is an awareness. It was very good. I liked that example, Krishna Arjuna, because when there are a lot of discussions about charity, we're not questioning anybody's thought or intention. Means there is a thought or intention which is again line to selfish. That story was amazing. Huh? When you start deciding who should get what you should get, is again operating on your own self. He decides that, and it's out of his own interest what Arjuna did, and Kanna didn't even look at that. That was a beautiful example. I love that. So very good session, Krishna. Very nice. Thank you all for the wonderful various points, and we really brainstormed this charity part, because when they say compassion, the charity comes to the mind, and uplifting. When Savita was mentioning about empowering someone, empowering is again, we are equipping them for something else only. No, it's still somewhere based on some outcome, some objective, some aim. We are pushing them. That's what I look at it when you give that example of empowering them. Very nice session. I'm going. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arul. Thank you. Ramya?
Hi. I have a lot of mixed thoughts on this session today. It's because I'm questioning a lot of things, because you talked about, looking at a child not as my child, but as a child. All those examples were good. But, so you were also talking about how the philanthropy is like, he just got it from the society and giving it back to the society. But in that context, I look at least he has done his responsibility fairly, really well, doing his job really well. And, he earned the wealth because of that. And at least he is having that thought to give it back to someone. Not everybody has that, feeling or thought to give it or to someone or take care of somebody, because we are in a very selfish society. So, for example, like
Ramya,
me and my classmates, we
first,
got the
amazing
same
wealth itself is
education.
selfish. No, please try to understand. If instead of changing 10 people, like he aspired to be givers, to be philanthropists, is that if the 10 people have not been so much brutally exploiting, the world would have been a better place to live.
One way what you're saying is correct, Krishna, but for example, if you take like me and my classmate, probably we took the same education, we have the same opportunity, but how I use it is my smartness and my intelligence, whereas the other person uses it in a different way, and for what I do is what I gain from the society, right? So, and after I gain the wealth, if I decide to give back,
please. You go to the forest. You go to the forest. You go into the sea. Right? You get into the forest. Or simply put, you get into the wild. What is the law of the wild?
The survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest. Exactly. The survival of the fittest is the law of the wild. Right? Now, you are saying that is the law of humanity too. I question it. Two of you are there. Both of you have had this similar exposure opportunity. One is better at something, so he exploits. When you are very rich, it means it is exploitation. Nothing but exploitation. I'm not against rich. You can still be rich, but you know it is coming out of exploitation. So survival of the fittest, the big fish eating the small fish, the big animal eating the small animal, is the law of the jungle, is the law of the wild. In human life, I think very strongly, very, very strongly, that compassion should be the way, not the fittest of the survival. The fittest should take care of the meekest. the survival of the meekest, the survival of the weakest should be the way forward, right? Not the other way around. I'm sorry.
Okay, so sure. So how should we, put these thought across to our children? Like, so because here in US, Thanksgiving, it's all about giving. In the month of November, you have to share, you have to give. So how do you bring about this thought to your kids?
No,
like you're talking about a grand scenario.
Am I ambitious? Within me, there's any ambition. If there's ambition within me, right? I do my work, I earn some money, that is very different. Am I ambitious? It is the process of becoming. Psychologically, materially, the process of becoming is ambition, right? Am I ambition? The moment I'm ambitious, I cannot be sensitive. It divides me from the rest of the humanity because I'm against humanity. Because to come up with my ambition, to reach my ambition, I fight humanity. I am against humanity. I fight my fellow beings to make sure that I am better than you. So it is not about bringing up the child in one way or the other. It is about talking to them in a very intelligent way, exposing the unintelligent way of the society. The society has kept us in that structure. That is the way the society has kept us. A man with a lot of ambition and the capacity to bring that ambition, to make that ambition into reality, fructification of that ambition is worshipped. That is the law of jungle. But I am here not for that. I am not with any race. I am a human being. Can I have that passion with everything? Can I live without ambition? Is the question. What it takes to live without any ambition whatsoever. Want nothing. I do things for the love of doing. That is very different, right? So can I live without an iota of ambition? And what is ambition? It is a constant comparison. It's a constant competition of one human being against the other. One wanting to be better than the other is a race between humanity is ambition. So am I something? Am I a thing or to be better than somebody else? Am I Intel Pentium and Intel Centrino and Intel i4 something for me to compare myself? Am I a mechanical device? Right? Am I a mechanical device to be compared, to compete, to be ruthless, to be brutal, to fight against my own fellow brethren? Because I don't see my child as an earth child, and very worse, I see earth child with contempt. Therefore, I say that you somehow be the best in your field. I can still be the best in my field. That is very different without any ambition. I can do what I can do, right? That is very different. But the moment you talk about ambition, there is no care, there is no compassion, there is no love. It is only a self-centered activity.
Again, I have some disagreement slightly. I do get it, what you're talking about. But in nurturing children, like for example, like my elder daughter, she has just joined college. Throughout her process, she has grown up to be a very compassionate person. She was continuously working for, the society here and all those things. But at the same time, we had kept an ambition for her, where to go, for example, because all her fellow high schoolers, they get diverted in so many other, things, being a teenager. So this focus helped her to reach in a better place, higher place where she wanted to be. At the same time, she has been a very compassionate person.
Are you not telling me that without that ambition, she would have been rotten?
If there was no focus.
So ambition is to you. Let us see. I do not know how to bring up a child compassionately. I do not know how to bring up a child intelligently. Therefore, I have put the banana in front of the monkey. I'm sorry to be very brutal here. I am putting the banana in the front of the monkey so that the monkey always focuses on the banana and doesn't focus about anything else. I'm very sorry.
No, it's because being in the high school, eventually the next process is going to the college.
Is it possible for me to say that you are in the society? Is it possible for me to have a talk with my son or daughter saying the society we live is utterly corrupt, utterly ugly, utterly bullshit, and then say never to be influenced. You will be a lotus in the water but never get wet. The lotus requires that water. That's a society. You be part of the society. I don't care, right? But is it possible never to be influenced by the society? That is the question. Then out of that, if your daughter has been not out of distraction, not that my daughter would have gone somewhere else or my son would have gone somewhere else, the society would have dragged them into some unwanted activity. Therefore, I put this in front of her or him is something very dangerous. Because I do not know how to bring up my child with compassion, with intelligence. Compassion means to be sensitive means to be aware means to live in intelligence. To be living in intelligence is to look at unintelligent things as unintelligent. Now, if I had been able to put across to my daughter or son the unintelligent ways of the society and make her to see it, then my job as a parent is done. Not the other way around. You please see the whole thing. You go into it. Don't feel guilty about it or bad about it. It is not late or it is not early about it. But if I'm going to see, because there's no time factor in intelligence, if I really understand what I'm doing, right? I have to make my child to look at the unintelligent things as unintelligent things. And that is part of intelligence. And that is only intelligence. You cannot define intelligence in any other way.
Okay.
So this probably, if all of us are comfortable with it, our next week we will talk about knowledge and intelligence. Is it okay?
Sure. Muthu here. I just wanted to share one small example of a person who I know. He used to be my driver. I just want to share
Thanks, Priya. Yeah.
I just want to share one small incident about him. He's a guy who probably won't have even 10 rupees or 20 rupees to go back home. Often I used to ask him, hey, do you have money to go home? Right? And a lot of times he's very high with self-respect. He will not ask. But looking at his face, I will know. I'll give him money. But the best part about him is, which I really admire, is that if he has 20 rupees in his pocket, if somebody comes and asks, hey, I don't have money, I want to eat, he will not think twice before giving either the entire 20 rupees or even sharing 10 rupees to them. So during this lockdown, obviously he lost his job. He was working somewhere else and he didn't have money for at least a couple of months. So I called him. He kept on calling me, never asked money. So I asked him, look, what do you want? Do you have money? You don't have money, I'll give you, right? So I transferred X amount, less than his monthly pay, but I transferred X amount to him, assuming that, okay, at least this guy will keep that money and probably will, survive for the next 2 months or so. Next month, when I spoke to him, 1 week later, he comes to me and tells me that half of the money he actually gave it to somebody where, somebody was feeding 80 people out there, keeping them in a shelter, right? This guy doesn't have any savings. This guy doesn't have any reserves. All the money he had was whatever I gave him. And nobody knows when this is all going to end. So for that, I know this quality of him, but for the one quality, I always tell him that, because even without thinking consequence, without thinking whether he will have money next, whether he will, be hungry next day, he will give the money. So I always put him from a charity perspective, that guy above any of the Bill Gates or anybody out in the world. That's a small thing I just wanted to share.
Muthu, this is not charity. This is selflessness.
Anything, but generally the ability to give money.
See, charity is something which I have and then give. This is selflessness.
I don't know what to call that, but to me, that guy really, I mean, it's about he doesn't have tomorrow.
That's why I'm saying when you are the selflessness, then the thinking and
no true. I mean,
feel,
he amazes me always. But that's, I mean, he's a very, from a driver perspective, he's very bad. He's very moody. But this one quality, and you can leave 1 lakh rupees right there in the car and walk away. Money will stay intact. Honesty and this மனசுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல, அந்த மனசு வந்து யாருக்கும் கிடையாது, எனக்கு கிடையாது கண்டிப்பா. I just wanted to share. When everybody was talking about charity, I just thought I'll talk about this guy. Thanks.
what do you?
So Krishna, I've been kind of in and out of these session all day today, so I haven't been continuously following start to finish. But the one thing I would like to share is, I think in these conversations we tend to start with a frame of reference, especially when we talk about poverty or people who are less privileged, etc. Right? I find it very deeply problematic, and I'm still working within myself about those frames of reference. Right? I heard the word empowerment. I heard poverty line below, and I think immediately the tendency is to see them as being less fortunate, less privileged, less whatever, and the one above the line being more. And it's always about crossing the line in one shape or form, right? So I still have to really do a little bit more thinking, but I find it very problematic to really kind of draw those frames of references, and each of us have our own frame of reference, and even questioning that frame of reference itself, right? Because in the example that Savita gave, where a gentleman kind of adopted in a way certain students or like other children in the community, and in a way it sounded, at least the way I heard that story, or in this case it's a real thing, it sounded as if it was for their betterment, and I really question that betterment. If that was a true betterment in those individuals' cases, and why do we consider that to be a betterment? Because Savita said now they are in Europe or Japan or whatever the case may be, and I think she was trying to illustrate the point that they moved from a state of whatever they were to a better state, and this individual was sort of instrumental in their lives, and that's the part I'm still working to see if that is even true. Are we really bettering their lives, if at all you can use the word better?
That is what I also told them. We are trying to make the majority like the minority, which is very dangerous. We are making more ambitious people. We are producing more ruthless people. We are making more competitive people. But we are not looking at humanity at all.
Yeah, so I think we probably have to maybe dig deeper to understand what really happens, because all of us know of many real life examples where either individuals, such as the example that Savita gave, help out people in the community, and there are also organizations that go into working with indigenous tribes, especially like around the Anakhet area. I know a couple of groups who do that, and they claim that they are bettering their lives by providing them with education to help them read and write, and eventually these kids end up working in call centers, or they all get the so-called better jobs in society, right? So they're no longer hunting and gathering, but now they're sitting in front of computers, and as a result making decent money or more money, right? My question remains is, in this case, do we consider their lives to be better? What we conventionally call as better is something to be questioned.
It's a simple, straightforward answer: no. We can go into the facts of it, but I see it very simply: no.
So one needs to question the whole notion of better in that case, be it better education, better living conditions. moving people away from the poverty line, right? Like,
I don't know whether you heard that, I was just mentioning that instead of making the 990 people like the 10, is it possible to transform oneself, or just one child or one person to be without ambition, without competition, without comparison, with compassion? Is it possible? That would transform the society, not this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the intellectual exercise is pretty sound, right? I think all of us, even though in our individual journeys and as part of these sessions we have, intellectually we grasp to the level we all can, and we all have our own individual understanding. But for me, the question is, again, in terms of self-centered action, like, am I seeing it in my daily lives? Am I leading a life that is not based on self-centered activity or thought, right? That to me is kind of like, I would say, the proof in the pudding, because we could be all sitting here talking about it all day, all week, and completely agree, understand, accept. But if we cannot necessarily lead those lives or put that in action, then even that intellectual activity or exercise itself becomes very questionable to me.
It is like the blind leading the blind then.
Yeah. So rather than even when I start to think, like, if I can't figure things out myself, why am I even saying or doing anything with my own child, right? I mean, I'm very unsure there. That's it, Krishna. Thank you.
Saita, or all of you have given, I lost track.
For me, it started on a lighter note, but then there is a lot of questions that's coming to me. So probably I'll ask some of these questions over the next week, or I'm noting down these questions and I'll ask these questions in the coming week.
Anybody else we missed out?
It was quite intense for me this week.
From my side, nothing more.
So what is knowledge? What is intelligence? See, that is where I think, everybody is getting stuck. When Vadivel was talking, we know about things. Do we act? Right? We know this is right or this is wrong, this is not good, this is okay. The intellectual exercise we have gone through. But what is our action? What is our lives? It's still the same? Or any other feedback, any other things we have to touch upon? There's lots, there's millions other things. But I'm just asking. It came to me that these two, we have to talk on knowledge and intelligence. So earlier, couple of weeks earlier, when Saita was talking about complaining, right? People often complaining. Was that right, Saita?
Yes, Krishna.
I told you to make a note of it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Hold it there. We'll look at it later. Now, last week itself, I thought I should bring it up, but somehow it skipped. You understand, when you complain, when you blame, it is self-pitying, getting certain pleasure.
Yeah.
See, the pleasure of fear is to quote the majority. See the whole world how it is. What am I to do? It is a pleasure. The fear derives its pleasure by saying the world is like this. My neighbor is like this. To put few other people together is the fear, that the pleasure of fear. The fear derives its pleasure strength from, quoting more numbers. Anger derives its pleasure from justifications. Self-pity sorrow derives its pleasure from self-pity. And self-pity derives its pleasure from blaming and complaining. Have you seen this?
Yeah.
When you say that 100 other people are like this, world is like this, don't you get certain amount of pleasure? When you are in anger and when you are justifying your anger, you don't derive certain pleasure. Yes, Muthu deserves it. That idiot, that stupid, I would have hit him if he's in person. I'm now justifying my anger. So anger derives its strength, its pleasure from justification. Sorrow from self-pity. And self-pity through blaming others, complaining about others, blaming others. The man who's in sorrow will start blaming others. So that is self-pity coming out. So he or she derives certain amount of pleasure out of it. Right? So suddenly I remembered it. I thought I should finish it off. Anything else? So over the week, if you think that we can deal with some other topic, right, or questions, please feel free to message me, or we can start it from here too. For now, it is like we'll go into explore what is knowledge and intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna.
Thank you, Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.